The Sportcat Show.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. You have the one, the only Sportcat. I am here with you, large and in charge. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Radio X in Australia. And of course, we wouldn't be on the air at all if it wasn't for Yergs Radio. We're live on Yergs Radio, radio.yergsradio.com, Rainbow Radio, and Right Talk Media, I think it is. Anyhow, we're live on all of the Yergs channel. We're live on Radio X in Australia. We're live on YouTube at the Paranormal Guys with a Z. Paranormal, 3 words, guys with a Z. And have y'all missed me? Honestly? Oh, well, Denise, thank you. Come on over, everybody. Enjoy the chat. Denise is here. She says she misses me. Thank you. I appreciate that. Chris says, welcome back. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And KG, I'm glad you are here. Welcome. So last week was a very strange week in my life. As you know, I'm still in East Tennessee. Oh, did I forget Wendell? Hello, Wendell. I'm sorry if I missed you. Hello, Wendell. Last week was a very strange week. As you all know, I'm here in East Tennessee helping family out. Well, sometimes things don't always go as planned, so you kind of have to drop back and punt and do plan B. And so, well, that was kind of what this week was, or last week was, for the end of the week, because, well, the family members needed some extra help. So Wendell says, I hope you got some rest. No, not really. Not really at all. In fact, probably less than I need, but hey, it's okay. All right. Well, for those of you that are new to the show, the Sportcat Daily Gazette, we are the anti-prepper show. We're the anti-doom and gloom show. We're basically telling you why you survived another day instead of those guys over on those other channels telling you all we're going to die today. Well, apparently you didn't, because they scheduled a show today, just like I did. And last week I was going to make fun of one of them because he couldn't find a bad story. So he led out with Oreos were missing more white fluff. So I was going to make fun of him, but it's a little late, so I can't do that now. But at any rate, it is what it is. So, all right. So today, I should have Mom make this, is National Devil's Food Cake Day. I like that. Who doesn't like devil's food cake? Maybe not. No, I'm not going to say it. All right. Today is Celebrate Your Elected Officials Day. Well, I'm not so sure about that one. Frog Jumping Jubilee Day. Today, am I on the right day? Didn't we have a frog day here recently? Let's see. I was going to say happy testing day. Hepatitis testing day. Learn all about hepatitis B and C and encourage individuals to get tested. Happy testing day. I'm off my rocker. It is Malcolm X Day. It is May Ray Day. To change the weather, check out how you can make the most of Ray. Okay, I got to look at May Ray Day. May Ray Day is celebrated on May 18th because we celebrate the rays of sunshine in our life. It's that time of year when the remnants of spring bring whispers of summer and the sunshine is at its most inviting. Well, it's not been a very good May for much of the country, so I don't know if we'll get that one in. It's National Asian and Pacific Islander HIV/AIDS Awareness Day. All right. Let's see. Hamilton is touring. Daniel Habib, whoever he is. Beyonce apparently is touring. In 2025, State of the Texans will be presented by Ticketmaster. I guess that's the Texans football. Okay, well, good for them. Did I miss something? Supply Chains Professionals Day, Plant Something Day. Hold on, I did miss some here. All right, let's go back and punt here. National Barber Mental Health Awareness Day. Do barbers really need okay, I won't argue. Mental health is good for everyone. National Chi Day. So many people don't understand Chi, but we're actually talking about the friends named Chi. So if you know someone named Chi, wish them a happy day. National Mechanics Dry Eye Day. Well, learn how to recognize and treat age-related condition known as mechanical dry eye. I was thinking they meant like the mechanics, but I don't guess they do. Mechanical's Dry Eye Day is observed each year on May 19th in the United States. It is observed to raise awareness about an age-related disorder of the eye It is one of the most important prevalent age-related eye disorders. It is commonly found in those over 60. Huh? You hear that, Wendell? The condition is identified by the presence of extra conjunctival folds, which are between the eyeball and the eyelids. The lower eyelid is typically affected by the condition. It disrupts the natural flow of tears and eye drops, weakening the tear film, delaying tear clearance, and causing dry eye. Interesting. All right, well, so check your eyes out if you are having dry eye, because today is Mechanical Dry Eye Day. It's Plant Something Day. It sounds like I just spit all over myself. Plant Something Day. Man, I tell you what, the missus was over the weekend. Mrs. Sportcat is still in Georgia, and she was planting some maters, some peppers. She's got all kinds of things planted. She's probably in my spot where I'm not at. It's Supply Chain Professional Day. Where would we be without Amazon, right? And so Victoria Day. Well, want to celebrate all the wonderful things that make Canada, Canada. Yes, we love our northerly neighbors. World Family Doctor Day. Well, celebrate the importance of your primary care provider, I guess. And World IBD, in which is an inflammatory bowel disease. There's several of those, actually. And today's birthdays, JoJo. Wasn't she a Mouseketeer? I think she was a Mouseketeer. Malcolm X. Marshmallow. Does he really look like that, or is that just a stage thing? Nikado Avocados Day. I have no idea who he is. Apparently, he's a famous, successful, extreme eating vlogger. Are we a vlogger? I think we're a vlogger. Orlin Holmes' birthday. Well, he is a popular YouTube known for his food creations. All right, well, congratulations. And where would we be without Sam Smith? Whoever the hell Sam Smith is, he's apparently a pop star. Happy birthday to you. Let's see what else we have in here. We'll bring up the next one and see what it is, because we always want to make sure we don't miss anyone or anything. And you have to forgive my squeaky chair and probably dog in the background and all that good stuff. Well, did I miss it? Today, what is today? Today, May 19th, well, Roadie Day. Yeah, I had a weird dream about my friend who's in a band, and they sung a song. They created a song called Sportcat Avenue. I don't know. It was by the Johnnies. I don't know. We talked about Devil's Food Cake Day. I will be on Mom to make a devil food cake, so trust me. She actually made a chocolate cake that was pretty delicious. So, and of course, I don't really need it because I'm in shape. It's round. All right, so today in history, it is May 19th, the execution of Anna Boleyn, and she was the second wife of the English King Henry VIII. Was beheaded at the Tower of London on charges of adultery, incest, and treason. How horrible. Nowadays, you just get a divorce. In 1643, Massachusetts Bay, Plymouth, Connecticut, and New Haven formed the United Colonies of New England. Well, we're no longer that. We're Americans. 1649, England is declared a Commonwealth by an act of the Rump Parliament, making England a republic for the next 11 years. Rump. Well, we got Trump. Never mind. 1865, German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck takes possession of Cameroon and Togoland. All right, well, Congress in 1898 passes the Private Mailing Card Act, allowing private publishers and printers to produce postcards, which has to be labeled private mailing cards. Until 1901, they were known as souvenir cards. I've never heard that. 1919, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk lands at Samsun on the Black Sea, beginning the Turkish War of Independence. And today in film and TV, 1926, the National Broadcasting Company, currently known as NBC, was founded by the Radio Corporation of America. Video killed the radio star. 1989, that was in TV though. Do the Right Thing, directed by Spike Lee, starring Danny Aiello and Ossie Davis, premieres at the Cannes Festival. In music today, in 1958, Rodgers and Hammerstein's South Pacific soundtrack goes number 1. And in Today in Sports, Willie T. Rebs overcomes numerous mechanical problems in qualifying to become the first African-American driver to make the Indianapolis 500 starting grid. Congratulations to him. Has the race already... I keep getting text alerts about it, but I haven't followed it because I've been so busy with things. Has the race already started or happened? I guess I should look at sports. All right, so let's see. I always check two sites, and well, we talked about the I shouldn't say young lady. The lady that was beheaded, the wife of King Henry, was at the 8th, and because he failed to produce a male heir. The king, desperate for a son, charged her with adultery, witchcraft, and had her beheaded. Wow, so he cut her head off because she couldn't bring him a male. That's horrible. Well, isn't it the male genes that... Well, no. In 1884, Ringling Brothers Circus opens. That was one of the longest shows on Earth. It continued until 2017. You remember when you were born? I don't know if this was everybody, but Chris says Indy 500 is upcoming this Sunday. You were given at birth a free ticket up until 2017, I assume, to any Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey circus. So I don't know if that was everybody, but I know I got them for all my kids, and I asked them, they're like, oh, we've been doing this since like the 1900s. Chris says Legoland would have been a better acquisition than Togoland. Yeah, true. 1897, Oscar Wilde is released from prison. Well, he is released from Reading Gaol, I guess, prison in Berkshire. 2 years earlier, he'd been found guilty of gross indecency and sodomy, then sentenced to hard labor. His prison inspired him to write the Ballad of Reading Gaol. He never recovered and died in 1900 at just the age of 46. I'd like to do a deep dive on him and see who he is. 1925, Paul Pot is born. And apparently he was born in the Cambodian village of Presk Salve, and he was born Saluth Star. He rose through the ranks of the Cambodian Communist Party and eventually took control of the country, which he sought to transform into agrarian utopia. Roughly 2 million people died under his brutal reign in what's known as the Cambodian genocide. Following a Vietnamese invasion of Cambodia in 1978, his regime was toppled. He was forced into the jungles along the border with Thailand for the rest of his life before his death at 72 in 1998. 1935, Lawrence of Arabia dies. Was he not a sir? He was following a motorcycle accident. Okay. An archaeologist, soldier, and author, he wrote extensively about his time in the Middle East, where he helped lead the Arab Revolt, as well as the Sinai and Palestine campaign against the Ottoman Empire during World War I. His life and his book, 7 Pillars of Wisdom, inspired the 1962 film Lawrence of Arabia. All right. 1983, Diane Downs attempts to murder her 3 children. Let's see. Diane Downs attempted to murder her 3 children, aged 8, 7, and 3, by faking a carjacking. Though she shot all 3 children, only Cheryl died, and Christy and Danny survived with life-altering injuries. Downs was later sentenced to life in prison plus 50 years. Shouldn't she have gotten the same? Well, we won't go there either. So, all right. So we'll jump into a little bit of the news. We're not going to try and get too news heavy today, I don't think. But we'll see how it goes. All right, so we'll start off with an article from the Smoking Gun. A 66-year-old man was caught pleasuring himself at a Louisiana business, and he was found with a tool inside the display shed. The 66-year-old Georgia man, shocker, Georgia, had to be Georgia, was arrested Sunday for obscenity after police discovered him pleasuring himself inside a display storage shed at Lowe's Home Improvement Store in Louisiana. They responded to the Slidell business after getting a 911 call that a naked man was inside one of the small sheds being offered for sale. After examining several sheds, an officer discovered him lying on his back on the floor of one of the units with his pants at his ankles and an open bottle of Vaseline at his side. He was amidst a personal pleasure session. He was reportedly acknowledged that he had been masturbating inside the shed while watching YouTube. Oh, God, I hope he wasn't a fan of our show. Pictured above there, he was arrested for obscenity and booked into the city jail. And he listed his residence as Jasper, Georgia, which is about 60 miles from Atlanta. Jasper address shown in public records is a 1-acre property containing a small mobile home. Oddly, the county assessor's website includes 3 photos of the site, but the images are one of the above only show a small storage shed. Should we name him Carl? Okay, so there you go. 66-year-old man was caught at Lowe's in the middle of Shangri-La. All right, this comes to us from one of our viewers. State police believe escaped inmates are still in Louisiana. Maybe they're in a shed. The Orleans Parish Sheriff, the one agency the public is anxiously awaiting an update from, did not attend the Sunday news conference. However, other state and city leaders, including Governor Jeff Landry, Major Latoya Cantrell, FBI leaders, state police, and Superintendent Ann Kirkpatrick. Landry is in New Orleans addressing the manhunt after 10 inmates escaped from the Orleans Justice Center and the failures she thinks have been exposed. We'll find them and we'll bring them back to justice, Landry said. My understanding is that the Orleans Parish Jail is beyond capacity because, again, the cases are not moving, such as the 9 of 10 of the escapes. This is a hard article to read there. So apparently the cases are beyond, there are too many cases and are just not moving. And I don't know why that has to do with 9 to 10 escapes, but 3 days in, the search for the 7 remaining escapees continues. Along the neighboring parishes, state police say they have notified law enforcement in nearby states. We may have some leads in other states. Unfortunately, those leads didn't pan out, according to Robert Hodges, a colonel with the Louisiana State Police. They say leads from the public have helped them capture the first 3 inmates. And he remarks that passionate remarks from the city and state leaders, passionate remarks from the city and state leaders as the FBI doubles its reward. Until they are back in custody, we should all remain vigilant. All right. Notably absent was the Orleans Parish Sheriff, which did not attend the news conference. Landry said is taking immediate action, issuing executive orders, and audit reviewing the correctional facility. This massive jailbreak, which my statistics show could be the largest in the state, should never have happened, Landry said. Landry said 9 of the 10 inmates were awaiting trial. He said that they should have been convicted sooner. They likely would have been at a secure state facility. There is no excuse for the way the cases are being mismanaged in our criminal justice center, Landry said. Meanwhile, Louisiana police say they will continue tracking down each tip. Unfortunately, they have friends and family members who are helping them and concealing and helping them move, which makes law enforcement's job much more challenging. We end up getting there too late. All right. Well, they've reached out to the sheriff, and apparently the sheriff's office response was, we appreciate the support of our fellow law enforcement and judicial systems partners. Moments like this require coordination, communication, and shared responsibilities across agencies. With that, I acknowledge and I respect Governor Jeff Landry's decision to initiate a comprehensive audit following the recent escape of the 10 inmates. In addition to the immediate actions already taken under my leadership, I view the governor's audit as a necessary step towards transparency that is equally critical that we recognize the longstanding systemic challenges that have been impacted this facility for years, challenges that I have been working to address since the beginning of my tenure. Chris says his trip to Lowe's yesterday was Less than eventful. Well, Chris, if you had shared, I would have probably told you that was TMI. Uh, all right. So apparently, this comes to us from another alert viewer. Apparently, teens involved in a large fight at Navy Yard, which is just outside of Washington, D.C., may be connected to a nearby robbery. In fact, after fights broke out at the Navy Yard area of D.C. Saturday night, police said some of the teens involved may be connected to a nearby robbery. Didn't I just say that? Video from News 4 viewers shows a large crowd of what appears to be dozens of teens at New Jersey Avenue and M. Multiple police cruisers responded to the block. This is going to be a rough day if I can't talk. And some people appeared to be running away. Well, that's what usually happens when the police arrive. DC police confirmed Sunday afternoon that a large group of juveniles engaged in disorderly behavior in the Navy Yard area. A spokesperson for WMATA said the large group of teens were fighting, which caused them to close the New Jersey Avenue side of the Navy Yard ballpark station. No one was arrested, but members of the group are believed to be connected to a nearby robbery where multiple suspects allegedly approached two victims and assaulted them. It happened at 925 at Half and M Streets. One of the victims was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. As that investigation continues, some residents say they fear for their safety. I wonder why. I want my kids, not only my kids, I want everybody's to be safe, you know. Navy Yard resident Nardo Luir, he said. Sorry, Lardo Lorino. And when I see kids outside, if there is a problem going on, I always kind of think, are my kids going to be okay in the neighborhood? Well, it's not what it used to be. While a curfew was in effect in the Navy Yard on Saturday and Sunday from 12:01 a.m. to 6 a.m. for those under 17, the last time DC police transferred a minor to the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services for violating the curfew was in April. Some think adjusting the curfew could help. I think earlier would probably be better, Navy Yard resident Anne Marie Reich said. 12 is maybe a little late for young kids in high school, so maybe around 10 or 11. I don't recall that we ever had a curfew growing up. We just knew when it got dark to go home. Deshaun Johnson, who works at a restaurant in Navy Yard, said he thinks those who are underage should always be accompanied by adults to avoid future dangerous situations. That's not always helpful because sometimes the adults are just as violent. I don't even feel safe working here anymore because that's like all these people who just come in could just want to have fun. Those who live in the area say it's not the first time they've seen groups of young people with no adult supervision in the area. Another video shows a group of minors allegedly with no adult supervision inside a restaurant near M Street Southeast Saturday night. Johnson, who shared the video with News 4, said he had to call police after trying to ask the teens to leave the premises. They come down here, they trash everything, he said. They treat our place like it's a lounge. Last month, DC police arrested 6 young people after fights broke out at the wharf. Me and my friend were talking, good Lord, about this, and the McDonald's right around the corner from us, in Virginia, where we grew up, you have to be like 18 to get in, and you got, if you're under that, you have to be accompanied by an adult or something. We were just kind of taken back because that was home. All right, so this story comes to us from Western New York, the Daily Record. Judges dismiss national security charges against immigrants who enter the new militarized zone at the border. Santa Fe, New Mexico, AP reporting federal magistrate judges in New Mexico have started dismissing national security charges against immigrants accused of crossing the southern U.S. border through a newly designated military zone, finding little evidence that the immigrants knew about the zones. Now, do you think they're going to tell you they trespassed? I mean, come on, man. Chris says, seems dumb to write allegedly running away. What else would it be? Water skiing? DC, probably not water skiing. So if you were trespassing and got caught, would you admit it? Oh, good Lord. So since late April, federal prosecutors in New Mexico and western Texas have filed misdemeanor criminal charges of violating national security regulations and entering restricted military property. At least 400 immigrants are accused of illegally entering the U.S., as well as a 60-foot strip of land recently designated as a national defense area. The military trespassing charges have been dismissed in at least 120 cases by magistrate judges at a federal court in La Cruz, including rulings on Friday. Companion misdemeanor charges of illegal entry into the U.S. were not dismissed. U.S. Attorney for New Mexico says at least 199 signs have been staked in the ground near the New Mexico border that warn entry into the newly militarized area. But Chief Magistrate Judge Gregory Warma says the mere fact that some signs were posted in New Mexico National Defense Area provides no basis on which to conclude the defendant could have been seen, let alone did see the signs. I remember when there was a sign everywhere. There was a sign. When we were growing up, you knew if there was a sign that says "Don't trespass," you'd come there. What the hell's wrong with these people? The government was using a, quote, cut and paste approach in its allegations that allowed the court to use the same legal analysis in ruling all the cases, Wormus said in the court case. The newly designated national defense areas are overseen by U.S. Army commands out of Fort Bliss in El Paso area in Texas and Fort Hiachu in Arizona. The two novel national security charges against immigrants who enter the border, those militarized zones, carry a potential sentence of 18 months in prison, and on top of the possible 6 month sentence for illegal entry. The formal implications are unclear for migrants who pursue legal status through separate proceedings in federal immigration court. The presidential administration says it has authorized U.S. troops to temporarily detain immigrants in the country illegally along the border. There are no records of troops exercising that authority as U.S. Customs and Border Protections conducts arrests. Public defenders say the trespassing charges cannot stand without proof that the immigrants knew the military restriction enacted in defiance of that regulation for some nefarious or bad purpose. Really? I'll just leave that there. Really? All right, so this story kind of gets me. We'll go into it a bit here. Suspected fertility clinic bomber had anti-pro-life manifesto, authorities are saying. So while we were gone, apparently there was a terrorist attack, and authorities have identified a deceased suspect in a vehicle explosion outside a fertility clinic in Palm Springs, California over the weekend, which they are treating as an act of domestic terrorism. The suspect is Guy Edward Bartkus. He's 25 of nearby 29 Palms, U.S. Attorney for the Central District of California, Bill Isale, announced in a Sunday post on X. Seems to be where they announce everything. He is believed to be the individual who is deceased at the scene. Investigators are working positively to identify the remains, he said. An anti-pro-life manifesto believed to be authored by the suspect has been located and is being examined by the FBI. He continued, "We are happy to report that no embryos at the IVF center were damaged in the explosion. This case is being treated as an international act of domestic terrorism, and the investigation is ongoing." A vehicle exploded on Saturday in a parking lot outside the American Reproduction Center facility, said the ARC, which is the American Reproductive Center, on a post on Facebook. The Los Angeles Times reported that there was extensive damage to the clinic. The lab at the location as well was blown out. Windows in buildings blocks away. While several people were reportedly injured in the blast, ARC said no members of its team were harmed. ARC further shared that all eggs, embryos, and reproductive material, even those collected in Lowe's sheds, remained fully secure and undamaged in the lab. In a post on X, the FBI Los Angeles field office said the vehicle in the explosion was a silver Ford Fusion sedan. They give the license plate number, and was also released a photograph of the suspect without any other information or content. A search warrant was executed at 29 Palms in connection with the explosion. The assistant director in charge of the FBI field office said in a press conference. He also stressed that officials did not believe there was ongoing threat to the community, despite residents being evacuated in the area. Davis additionally mentioned that Bardakist had nihilistic ideations, and this was a targeted attack against the fertility clinic. He later noted he believed he was attempting to live stream the event, and yes, it is also part of the investigation. ARC said they'll be fully cooperating and back up and operational on Monday morning. That's today. And our team is here to answer any concerns you may have. We appreciate your incredible support from our patients, local community, as well as the swift action of the Palm Springs Police, Fire, and Emergency Responders. Okay, so here's my question with this. This kid, I'll call him a kid because I'm old enough to, Guy Edward Bardick is 25. They're not saying he had any specific training. That they're not saying he was trained anywhere, and he carried out an explosion that pretty much took out the center of a building. But on New Year's Day, I believe it was, at Trump Plaza in New Mexico, I think it was it Las Vegas? I think it was Las Vegas. A person with various technical experiences to make things go boom tried to make something go boom and was not very successful. He was militarily trained. This guy, there's no mention of that, and he got a better boom. It seems to me they're not telling us something on one of the two stories, but all right. So who knew the Mexican Navy had a ship? We shouldn't laugh because there are 2 dead after a Mexican Navy crashes into the Brooklyn Bridge. 2 crew members are dead and nearly 24 others were injured after a Mexican Navy tall ship lost power and crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge on Saturday evening, said New York Mayor Eric Adams. Videos posted to social media showed the moment the mast of the sailing vessel, identified as a trading ship on a goodwill mission called the Cardabach, snapped upon slamming into the bridge. Earlier tonight, the Mexican Navy tall ship lost power and crashed into the Brooklyn Bridge, Adams said in a post on X. Apparently, X is where you get all your news. At this time, of the 277 on board, 19 sustained injuries, 2 of which remain in critical condition, 2 of which have more sadly passed away. He added, "We are praying for everyone on board and the families and are grateful for our first responders who quickly jumped into action, ensuring the accident wasn't much worse. Following our preliminary inspection, we confirm that the bridge sustained no damage and is now open to the public." So apparently, as it was leaving the pier, it lost power and then somehow went full steam into the Brooklyn Bridge, which obviously it was not tall enough to pass under, causing it to collapse. And the Mexican Navy had people, there's a technical term for that, where they're standing at attention at, what is it? It's called KG. Maybe you can help me out, but where they're standing at attention on the different positions in the ship. Apparently those in the upper tiers were the ones severely damaged or injured. So, but who knew the Mexican Navy had a ship? Did you? All right, so here we go. We can use the words big, beautiful bill. In a rare Sunday night vote, the Republicans advanced the Trump big, beautiful bill. Republicans on the House Budget Committee voted in a rare Sunday night session to advance President Trump's big, beautiful bill, encapsulating his legislative agenda after deficit hawks relented, clearing the way for a possible floor vote later this week. This comes to us from Just the News. All right, so Speaker Mike Johnson met with fellow lawmakers shortly before the vote, and he said he agreed with some minor modifications, not a huge thing. He said the bill making Trump's 2017 tax cuts permanent and reforming Medicaid, it is now on track for a House floor vote towards the end of the week. The vote marked a sudden turnaround after 3 days of drama when fiscal hawks like Representative Chip Roy of Texas And Representative Ralph Norman of South Carolina voted against the bill on Friday because of concerns it did not cut spending deep enough or repeal more of former President Joe Biden's Inflation Reduction Act spending. All right, so the big, beautiful bill passed halfway. The House Budget Committee. They were up all night working on that. All right. That was the same time President Trump came home. Let's see here. I don't know if I can get that to go away. All right, so this comes to us from the Daily Mail. And the headline is Health Cover-Up. America's top oncologist makes most shocking claim about Biden's cancer yet during Morning Joe appearance. A top doctor shockingly stated that Joe Biden likely had cancer when he began his presidency in 2021. Leading oncologist Dr. Zeke Emanuel made the bombshell announcement on MSNBC's Sunday Morning Joe Monday, saying Biden did not develop prostate cancer in the last 100 or 200 days. He had it while he was president, Manuel insisted. He probably had it at the start of his presidency in 2021. Yes, I don't think there's any disagreement about that. The doctor's remark come after the 82-year-old former president revealed that he had been diagnosed with an aggressive form of prostate cancer. The cancer has metastasized and spread to his bones, a statement on the diagnosis said, adding that the family is deciding on treatment option. The announcement came a week after reports revealed a small nodule was found on Biden's prostate that needed further evaluation. On Monday, Emanuel questioned how such an advanced form of the disease had gone under the radar until now and spread to the former president's bones. And when they say it is metastasized, what that means is it is now systemic. It has went throughout the entire body, and it can go pretty much anywhere it chooses. He said, all right, this is him quoting, he had this for many years, maybe even a decade, growing there and spreading, said the doctor, who was named to a 16-person COVID advisory board handpicked by Biden himself. That's right, it's a little surprising. Biden officials had outlined the severity of the diagnosis in their statement, something Emanuel pointed to as a sign his condition had been, quote, swept under the rug. That's his words, not mine. I'm reading this from the Daily Mail, so don't at me, YouTube. I look back at the records and there's no evidence that when he had his health status and the medical records that were released that he had a prostate-specific antigen, he said. Now, it is true that a lot of people recommended not doing a prostate-specific antigen after 70. But President Biden has been in public a very long time, Emanuel argued, as theories continue to swirl regarding the timing of the diagnosis. He was vice president and had a lot of exams under 70, so it's a little surprising that they didn't know. And maybe President Biden decided he didn't want the test. Many men do decide they don't want it, but this is also, quote, aggressive. The top doc also discussed how Biden's doctor provided what is known as Gleason's score to give public general idea of the disease's advanced progress. The score is from 2 to 10, and he is a 9, Emanuel told Scarborough. And that means that the cancer doesn't look normal. It looks very abnormal, which is probably why it is in his bones. And as you point out, Joe, it's been around for a very long time in the President Biden years, he said. Exactly how many? We don't know, obviously, he replied. And that is a little surprising to many of us oncologists that he wasn't diagnosed earlier. The former medical expert for Biden's COVID advisory board reiterated how the decision to get the test resulted entirely on the then president. After he took it and if he took it and did report it, it was elevated. There was a case of doctors not being straightforward with us, Emanuel said. We've had several of them with President Trump, especially around his COVID diagnosis. And if that is true, that would be very troubling, the doctor concluded. So that is not speculation, Scarborough responded. If you have prostate cancer that is spread to the bones, then you're saying most certainly he had it when he was president of the United States. To which Emanuel replied, oh yeah, before explaining that his belief that Biden has had the condition for the better part of a decade. He and others continue to question the timing of Biden's diagnosis, as prostate cancer is a disease that, while deadly, often progresses slowly and is often detectable early through a PSA blood test. That was mentioned by Emmanuel. Cases as advanced as Biden usually come with warning signs, aside from the rising PSA. Everybody get your PSA checked, such as urinary symptoms and bone pain. As Emmanuel noted, presidents generally undergo routine and thorough annual physicals, for which this typically includes a PSA testing. Doctors declared Biden, quote, fit to serve as recently as February of last year, meaning if he did undergo the PSA test at the time, the late state metastatic cancer made most of its progress within 15 months. Theories that Biden and his team knew about the disease and chose to delay public disclosure remains unfounded. Officials in their statements to the diagnosis came a week after the discovery of a small nodule on his prostate. It also mentions increasing urinary symptoms from the former president that occurred during the discovery, which was made public days after the Democrat appeared on The View. In a statement Monday morning, Biden personally addressed his diagnosis, sharing a photograph of himself alongside First Lady Jill Biden and their cat Willow. Thank you for lifting us up with love and support, he wrote hours after the statement from his personal office. And there's the photo. We wish him well. We hope he gets well, but having worked in a cancer clinic, I can tell you that that is probably something that should have been caught. And let's see. Chris says, whoever had the idea to add cheerleader photograph, thank you. Like, subscribe, and follow. She is more beautiful than the big, beautiful Bill. Denise says, whether my opinion of him as president or not, I will keep him in my prayers. Absolutely. Everybody should. He is a human being. You don't have to, what is the term? You don't have to like the man, but you have to respect the office or something like that. Maybe I got it backwards, but you should, even if you don't agree with somebody politically. I had a huge fight with somebody about this back during the assassination attempt. Even if you don't like somebody, that doesn't mean that you wish them dead. I mean, that's just wrong. So, and that's my opinion, and I'll stick with it because, well, that's my opinion. Okay, we'll get a little lighter. These are the top 10 riskiest foods to eat right now, but this is also why you shouldn't freak out. Food-related illnesses are on the rise, having jumped 41% compared to the previous year, thanks to a large rush of recalls, according to watchdog group U.S. Public Interest Research Group Education Fund. Couldn't they name it something simpler? Or there's probably it's USPIE or something. This trend comes in the wake of a highly publicized foodborne illness outbreak, such as the one linked to McDonald's in the fall of last year. Consumer Reports, the nonprofit known for testing and monitoring consumer-facing policy and products, released its annual Risky Food Report in April, naming the 10 foods in 2024 that were subject to the most recalls and are associated with the largest outbreak of illnesses. Salmonella, Listeria, and E. coli were attached to the entries, which cited specific outbreaks that occurred in the last year in relation to foods that, like deli meat and certain produce and dairy. With major funding and staffing cuts curtailing the federal agencies responsible for overseeing, inspecting, and testing the U.S. food supply for safety, keeping the industry properly regulated is becoming increasingly challenging. As a result, the consumers may have to take the responsibility than ever in identifying probable risks associated with certain foods. However, this does not mean that you have to permanently swear off deli sandwiches, cucumber salads, who likes them, or McDonald's cheeseburgers. And here's what to know. What foods did the Consumer Reports list as riskiest? Well, this is based on the number of illnesses and deaths related to food contamination in 2024, how widespread the outbreaks were, the number of recalls, and the amounts of food recalled. The report cited major recalls and outbreaks in 2024, such as the deadly Listeria attributed to boar's head's meat and McDonald's E. coli linked to onions on some of its burgers. All right, so here it is. Prepare to become a vegan. Nope, well, can't even do that. That's not safe. The number one was deli meat, followed by cucumbers. Well, I swear off of that. Raw dairy. Where do you get raw dairy? And I have no idea what this is. Cotija and queso fresco cheese. I'm not sure what kind of cheese that is. Eggs. Well, you have to cook your eggs. Onions, leafy greens, organic carrots, organic basil, and ready-to-eat cooked poultry and meat. Now, I just read an article that says once you cut an onion, you're supposed to let it air or something. I don't know. Were all these foods recalled last year, and why are they risky? All the foods in the above list, the ones we just mentioned, are linked to some sort of recall or outbreak in 2024. Deli meat had an exceptionally rough year as the Boar's Head Listeria outbreak not only killed 10 people, forced the company to recall 7.2 million pounds of product, but it also prompted the indefinite closure of an entire plant in Jarrett, Virginia last summer. Deli meat is some of the most risky food and is often associated with the spread of listeria. Listerian monoglietides, I'm probably pronounced that wrong. The bacterium that leads to listeria poisoning, or listeriosis, is a hardy germ and can survive at very low temperatures. They thrive in cool, damp places, all the freezers. It can and will happily live on foods in your grocery storage area, and in the process for mass producing the meat lends itself to plenty of opportunities for contamination. The same issues apply to pre-cooked and ready-to-eat meals, like the millions of pounds of food recalled by Bruce Pack for listeria. Produce like cucumbers recalled due to salmonella outbreak that infected 113 people across 23 states, and leafy greens and organic baby carrots attributed to multiple E. coli outbreaks, and E. coli slivered onions on the McDonald's quarter pounder are suspected to spreading bacterium also as a result of how we produce them. Okay. People that have served fresh can become adulterated with E. coli through fecal contamination, which can occur through wastewater in the growing area. Fertilizer in the proximity of the growing area to livestock. Eggs can be contaminated similarly when being processed if their shells have cracked. Raw dairy is always unsafe to consume and illegal to sell in some states. And I just saw a thing on that. Italy has a vending machine where you can put your milk jug in and put in your euros, and it will distribute, or vending machine will distribute a liter of raw milk. So I don't know. Raw dairy, which is unsafe to consume and illegal to sell in the states, caused an outbreak of some salmonella linked to the producer Raw Farms, sickening at least 165 in 2024 and sparking bird flu concerns as well. The same dangers apply to cotija and queso fresco cheese, as they are made from raw milk. And one producer, Rizzo Lopez Foods, was shut down in October after its cheeses were linked to a year-long listeria outbreak that killed 2 people and made dozens of others sick. Dairy pasteurization, or heating milk to let's try this again. Dairy pasteurization, or heating milk products to a high enough temperature to kill harmful bacteria, become routine in the commercial milk supply in the U.S. in the 20s and widespread by the 50s. As a result, illnesses commonly spread via milk such as listeria, diphtheria, and TB, tuberculosis, become less prevalent. Recent misinformation trends, however, have caused resurgence in people seeking out and consuming raw dairy. I've never seen that anywhere else. Besides being considered risky doesn't mean these foods are forever off limits. Instead of eating, prepare them simply entail extra care and adherence to best food safety practices. The good news, depending on how you look at it, is that the safety regulations in the U.S. have been historically created and emboldened by incidents of harmful such as recalls and outbreaks. Theoretically, then, the 2024 outbreaks should lead to more targeted adjustments. Isn't that the way we learn, by one death at a time? One expert said, Senior Food Safety Extension Associate Penn State, good Lord, he had previously told USA Today shortly after the break of the Boar's Head outbreak that it was probably the safest time to buy Boar's Head. Huh, yeah. For one, they shut the troubled facility down. 2, a company that experienced an issue like this should be on high alert checking and double checking their systems to ensure product is safe, and the USDA is definitely on high alert, ensuring that Boar's Head product is being safe. In fact, he continued, this is really the history of regulations in the U.S. Most food regulations change occur in light of issues such as outbreaks. Like I said, we learn one death at a time. So how to mitigate your risks: thoroughly wash your produce, heat meats and other foods to proper internal temperatures, wash your hands often, sanitize cooking areas and tools after use, properly refrigerate your food, and avoid cross-contamination of raw meats and other foods. More tips can be found at the CDC. So there you go. The top 10. How many of these do we eat daily? The deli meat for me is I ate that a lot. Probably other words, onions would be the next for me. And I don't know what Mrs. Sportcat makes. I can't say, so I don't know. But all right. So, well, speaking of which, we'll go to a story about the pickled pepper. And let's see if we catch up in the comments. Yes, I agree, Denise and Chris. That is exactly the way we should treat any person. A pickled pepper maker knows exactly how hard it is to switch to natural food dyes. Pickled pepper. The Trump administration's Make America Healthy Again hopes to eliminate potentially harmful synthetic dyes from the food supply. Manufacturers of those dyes used to make food, drinks, and medicines in vivid colors, but the government argues that the cosmetic additives are both harmful and easy to substitute. Dr. Marty McCary, wasn't he on Back to the Future? The new commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration addressed the issue at a recent event attended by a contingent of MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, moms. In addition to media outlets, he told the food and beverage companies that switching to all-natural food and dyes should be easy. Try watermelon juice, he suggested, holding up a sequence of small jars of liquid, and the audience laughed. Or beet juice. But how simple is it to switch? Well, Mark Oliveira, owner of Oliveira Peppers, based in Clarksburg, West Virginia, found out for himself after about 5 years ago, when his grocery chain buyers pointed to a greater consumer demand for more all-natural products. They asked if he could remove the yellow dye number 5 he used in his bright peppers, yellow pepper recipe. So he ran kitchen experiments, initially using ground turmeric root, the powdered spice that makes curry so easily stain clothes. It took me a little while to get the exact color, but because within 6 to 8 weeks in the jar, it would start lightening up, he says. So the first year, we had a little bit of a tough time. It was mainly because we were using the powdered form, which didn't hold its color as long. He then found a liquid version of turmeric dye that was pricier and required more quantity, but worked perfectly and did not fade. And although he says yellow dye number 5 still remains approved to use in food, he's now happy to be able to remove it from his ingredients. That move 5 years ago put him ahead of the curve. Well, Europe has since banned all synthetic dyes and required manufacturers to include warning labels about dyes and products, and Canada has imposed limits on the amount of dye that can be used in food. All right. In the U.S., Biden banned red dye number 3 in January, just before leaving office last month. The Trump administration said it wants to go further, getting the food, beverage, and pharmaceutical industries to voluntarily eliminate all petroleum-based dyes by the end of the year, and also recently approved 3 new all-natural dyes for the manufacturers to use. Well, Oliveira, who relied on a single dye, finding an alternative was relatively easy. But he says that likely it won't be the case for other companies more reliant on petroleum-based dyes like red number 40 or blue number 1 or blue number 5 across their products. I think the snack industry and the drink industry, they're going to have a tougher time. Wait a minute. Speaking of which, my Mountain Dew. Indeed, Representative Chuck Fleshman from Tennessee, he raised the snack industry's concerns last week during a House Appropriations Committee hearing from Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He said that he represents many snack companies that have factories in his district in East Tennessee. Candidly, I think these dyes are safe, Fleshman said. referring to synthetic dyes. He also notes that the current dyes have been used in many years in manufacturers and seeing costs 5 to 10 times higher for natural substitutes. Well, he's probably getting paid by those companies to say that. I hate to say that because he's from East Tennessee. I don't know if he represents Knoxville or not. One cost driver, okay, it takes a lot of red cabbage. One cost driver is the extracting large volumes of color from natural sources is far more complex than mixing chemical dyes, says Melissa Wright, a food safety expert at Virginia Tech. If you're using red cabbage extract in place of red 40, you're going to have to plant and harvest and extract raw material to be able to derive the natural color material, says Wright, and finding enough quantity is the problem. She says some colors are harder than others to reproduce because some, such as yellows, have a lot of common natural alternatives, including turmeric, paprika, and annetto. Not so with blue. Blues are going to be really hard. She said blues, there is not a lot of natural sources and supply is going to be limited, and that's going to make a difference as to what the cost is in the reformulation. And because green is a mix of both blue and yellow, there's no Mountain Dew, it can be costly and difficult to source. Two of the recent approved natural dyes produce blue ones come from, and I can't pronounce that, but it's an algae, and the other is butterfly. I thought it was going to say butterfly pea. You just put them in a little beaker. Butterfly pea flower extract that can make purples and greens in addition to blue, according to a press release by the Department of Health and Human Services. We've got to put little butterflies in a beaker and say pea. Heat, acid, and the way people eat with their eyes. He said the cooking process can add to the complexity. These naturally derived colors tend not to be as stable, especially with heat or acid, which means they can degrade or change color when added to an acidic soda or if they baked like a cookie. Products that you have to heat are going to become a problem because they're not going to be as vivid as the customers used to seeing, he said. Loyal customers can vocally revolt when cherry flavors suddenly turn dull purple, and then when General Mills briefly switched to strict cereal to all-natural dyes years ago, or when cheese snacks appeared more rust-colored than safety tape yellow. The consumer habits and preferences can be hard to break, says Wright. Consumers might think the new product is defective, bad, or simply less pleasurable. When I eat Doritos and Cheetos, I have the orange dust on my fingers, right? If I don't have that, is that really a Dorito eating experience? Mark Oliveria, the pickled pepper maker, sees the preference in his product line too. The cauliflower he dyes bright yellow with turmeric sells far better than his vegetable mix, in which he includes no dyes at all. So people like color, he concluded. 90% of the people eat with their eyes. I think 90% of the people don't read and don't care what's in the jar. Well, you should care what goes into your body. So, all right, well, it's top of the hour. I want to thank Radio Australia, Yerg's Radio, Rainbow Radio, and Right Talk Radio for allowing us to tickle your ears. This will be rebroadcast tonight on Pine Island FM. We want to send a shout out to them and thank them. And one last story here before we hop over to what's going on in the world. Ace Hardware, I believe next Monday, Ace Hardware is giving away free American flags during the Memorial Day weekend. Visit your local Ace on May 24th to get your free flag, and don't miss the best grill deals that come with a side of steak. So they're trying to get you in the store, but they're going to give you a free flag. They're giving away 1 million free American flags on Saturday, May 24th, and they're, of course, having a big sale. But if you want a free flag on May 24th, find your local Ace Hardware and go check them out. Get you a flag. Excuse me. I was going to run this story, but we're running out of time. It comes to us from Spectrum One News, but it's talking about a final walk for a soldier, for a sentinel at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And it goes into not only his career, but what it takes to do the job. So if you get a chance, you can go check it out. The final walk at Arlington's Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. We'd like to thank Army First Class Andrew J. for his service and for guarding the unknown soldier. Thank you, sir. All right. Let's see. Oh, it is 2:02. That is correct. Let's hop into our FEMA daily briefing, and let's see if FEMA's helped me out or if they're still behind the wheel. Well, it appears that FEMA's busy, so the last briefing they gave was Sunday, and in which case we can say that, well, they've missed a lot. They're probably busy, so we won't give this a lot of time, but we do know that over the weekend, severe thunderstorms and tornadoes broke out pretty much across the center of the country. Kentucky was hit the hardest. I do not know the exact death count total, but the last I heard, it was around 28. All right, so today's schedule for the president, Donald J. Trump, at Monday, May 19th. Let's make this full screen. They're calling the in-pool camera call time as 8:30 a.m., meaning if you're going to be there with a camera and a press card, you got to be there at 8:30. 9 a.m., a press briefing from Secretary Karen Leavitt, and you can get the full text and analysis of that already. It was at the James S. Brady press briefing, and of course, it was on camera. 3 o'clock, the president and first lady participate in a bill signing in the Rose Garden, which is in about an hour, and only pre-credentialed media have access. At 4:30, the president participates in a law enforcement event, which is closed to the media, and that's in the Oval Office. And I think law enforcement week ended Sunday, if I'm correct, or Saturday. Last week was National Law Enforcement Memorial Week, and now we're starting off on Sunday with EMS week, Emergency Medical Services week. So I'm assuming his participation is probably going to be a closed event to the families of all the officers that lost their loved ones in the line of duty last year. So I'm assuming that's what that is. That's a typical presidential thing to do, and that will be at 4:30. And then at 7 o'clock, the president is participating in a Kennedy Center board dinner in the stateroom, and only White House press pool can attend at 7. And after that, I'm sure he'll return and they'll put a lid on it. So it was a busy last week for the president, and he arrived back yesterday at 4:06 p.m. and then they put a lid on it at 4:11. It was probably closer to 4:15, which means that all media out, family and essential staff only. I'm sure he had jet lag and was tired from his trip overseas. He was on a whirlwind of a trip. All right, so we're going to go over this, and I'm going to do it two different ways here because I'm getting conflicting information. We always talk about the DEFCON level. Well, defconlevel.com, which is an open source intelligence to the global threat monitoring, has still got us at DEFCON 3. And this is why they still say that there's a current list of cities that are likely to be targeted. And you can go read this full list, but of course we know it's the major ones. And we also saw one over the weekend, and additional risk globally. We know about what's going on in other countries with their wars and their terrorism, so you can check that out. And according to them, this is updated today, the 19th. The current geopolitical climate was active because we continue to carry out 24/7 strikes on the Houthis in Yemen. And I was pretty sure we had stopped that. So I'm not sure on that, but that was what they are reporting. The U.S. Coast Guard responded to the Calumet Allison with the Brooklyn Bridge, and it's a maritime term for a vessel striking a stationary object, distinct from a collision between two moving objects. Huh. Okay. Interesting. I can't pronounce that, but that's what they call it. Interesting. I'm sure they're going to investigate. The 17th through the 18th air raid sound in Israel following a missile launch from Yemen, while the Houthis were not explicitly identified. Past instances of ballistic missile fire from Yemen towards Israel have been attributed to the Houthis. On the 17th, there was the big boom near the fertility clinic in Palm Springs, which has already been declared an incident of international violence or terrorism. On 16th, statement from the Israel military that they're conducting extensive strikes and mobilizing troops to achieve operational control in Gaza. So that still goes on. And then on May 16th, I'll go back just a little bit. The Royal Navy intercepts supersonic missile launches, the first unmanned submarine. Okay, hold on a minute. NATO conducts exercises. Russian submarine shadowed in British water. The British Navy went on to report that the Plymouth-based Type 23 frigate closely monitored and launched a Merlin helicopter in order to gather information from the air before handing over the escort duty to NATO allies. Okay, so naval developments. The Royal Navy intercepts supersonic missile. It launches first unmanned submarine. And then NATO conducts exercises. Well, I guess that was a test that they assess the supersonic missile. I'm assuming that's what it was. And it sounds as though they were being shadowed by the Russians watching what they were doing. And then on May 16th, coordinated strikes on Houthi infrastructure in Yemen after ballistic strikes attacks on Israel. And so I'm not sure who did that, but ongoing Houthi attacks in Yemen strikes based targeted Israel's have forced launch multiple missiles at Israel in recent days. So and the U.S. military joint commands in Africa talks about terrorism, and the civil authority Pakistan has reopened its airways with India, and they say that is pretty much calmed down. And I did note that prior to coming on, they closed Iraq's airspace, totally closed it. So it's definitely, you can't fly there. Don't know why. I couldn't get an article. Now this one goes to tell us that we're at DEFCON level blue. And I checked to see if they had updated it, but they have. It's updated as of this morning. But they still say that because of we're remaining at blue because of the India-Pakistan Operation Sindoor is still active. It's too early to lower the alert. We're at 4 according to them. In Iran, rising rhetoric, here we go, stalled diplomacy. The United States has publicly stated that it is willing to use force if nuclear negotiations with Iran collapse. Meanwhile, Iran consists on its sovereign right to enrich uranium, which the declarations include a breakdown in diplomacy could reopen a military option. South Asia, Southeast Asia, ceasefires are holding, but they're fragile, and they're talking about Pakistan and their ally, or not ally, but their enemy, India. Russia, there's talk of peace there, but there's still troops gathering along the European border. While not an immediate trigger to escalation, it remarks a continuation of long-term positioning, other posturing. China and Russia continue to develop space-based military technology. Okay. And they want to know if the U.S. and Ukraine are going to have a deeper commitment in the Russia-China lunar deal. A new agreement between Russia and China to construct a lunar power plant reflects a deepening strategic alignment and cooperation beyond Earth, signaling new fronts in a geopolitical rivalry. And North Korea, expanded maritime nuclear capacity. North Korea has unveiled a new warship reportedly capable of launching a tactical nuclear weapon. Raises more concerns about a mobile, less predictable threat. Good Lord. While there is no immediate sign of nuclear war, well, that's always good news. Global posturing continues to move in dangerous directions until India clearly clarifies the conclusion of Operation Sindoor and Russia reduces its military presence on the European border. The alert will remain at blue, which in theirs is DEFCON level 4. And then it goes on to explain it. So there's some controversy there, and they did just close a lot of airspace in the Middle East just prior to us coming online. So it's kind of, I don't know. We're either at a 3 or a 4. Either way, we're not going to die today. I'll still have a show tomorrow. I'll still schedule a show tomorrow. We're still not going to go. Chris says, big, beautiful lid on his big, beautiful cotton candied hair. Yeah, he did have a new do. Did you notice that? So, okay, we're going to go over the national daily briefing for the National Weather Service for the United States. And we need to pay particular attention because right now, Storms are really kicking up with heavy rains and flooding from Texas all the way up to almost the Great Lakes. But what's worse is the potential for severe thunderstorms. And these pretty much go, we'll just call it the midsection of the country, pretty much from Texas to Wisconsin. And it expands almost, it does, to Memphis, Tennessee, and all the way back to Nebraska. And there's the potential for very severe storms. Now, here's the problem. Daytime heating is giving them fuel from the Gulf of America, and it is moving to the east. Now, they're saying there's already a little low in place that's going to hit on the Appalachia side. Depending upon timing, it could be severe weather for us on this side of the Appalachia or the other side of the Appalachia. So stay weather aware, because there's a bunch of potential for some more tornadic activity. And this storm is going to gain intensity and not lessen until well after dark because of the energy. And I did notice, anybody else tell me if they've noticed, they've started using a term in meteorological terms, joules per kilogram. And what that is the amount of energy per kilogram. So they weigh the atmosphere and then see the energy level, how much energy, the potential electrical energy, and then that rates how dangerous the storms are. That's very interesting. I read that, and of course it got in a little deeper than I know. I just got my JED from, from Northern Virginia. I ain't got nothing fancy. I do have a bachelor's in fire science, but that's another story. So, so be weather aware if you're in the midsection of the country moving to the east. And we have to mention at the higher elevations, some mixed precipitation. And there's even a potential with that cold front moving over. Elements could be right for snow in West Virginia at higher altitudes. So keep your eyes open on that if you're in West Virginia, mainly up towards the ski slopes, and it probably won't be much, but it's still there. And Chris says there is a decent chance last night could have been the first EF5 level tornado in Kansas. Yeah, the tornadoes have really had the energy. And this thing's not going to get any better, because it's not really going to die overnight. It's just going to, let's just say it's going to settle its stomach, is I guess the easiest way of saying it. It's going to settle its rumbling and grumblings and won't have as much energy. But as soon as that fresh morning sunlight comes off the Gulf of America, it's centered pretty much over the southeast in the mid-Atlantic, and they're going to get hit tomorrow badly. So if you're anywhere in Illinois, Indiana, West Virginia, or Kentucky, Tornado Alley, parts of Virginia, most of Tennessee, all the way extending down into Arkansas, Alabama, Louisiana, maybe as far as northwest Georgia, tomorrow could be very ugly. So be weather aware. I want to remind everybody, and I'm going to start doing some videos on this, like everything else, when we get more time, on things we can use, things we need. You should have, I'm going to find and research a weather radio that I would recommend to my friends and family, and I'm going to do a review on it. So it may take me a little bit, but everybody should have a radio, one that is electrically powered, battery powered, either charged by USB or traditional AAA to C batteries. You should have a form of communication, i.e. cell phone. We should start thinking about backup communications in certain parts of the country, because, well, communication systems also go down when the electrical activity has knocked out the grid. So you should start thinking about getting involved with your local neighborhood groups that may be REACT. If you're CB, you can spend the money and just send off to the FCC to get your license to operate on GMARS, the General Mobile Radio Service. That's a great way of communicating. A lot of neighborhoods are using that, and they also connect them to the internet so you can talk to people worldwide. And I'm a firm advocate of ham radio, but we should have more than one way to communicate, and we should have a flashlight, and we'd have some type of tool. And when I use the word tool, because if you use sharp, pointy thing, YouTube loses, good Lord, YouTube loses its mind. Well, you could get in a circumstance with a dangerous storm where you're under the desk or under something strong and you need to get out and you don't necessarily have all the right tools. So you should be thinking ahead. Me and Mrs. Sportcat had a big talk about this over the weekend. She is going to venture further north and come visit me. A conjugal visit from Mrs. Sportcat over the holiday weekend. So, all right. So day 3, Wednesday, things appear to be calming down, but because of this little pressure here, I'm not going to rule this out as changing, but the National Weather Service is saying by day 3 that it'll be just scattered rain in higher elevations in Wyoming, Oregon, Washington, maybe even Colorado. You can see a little bit of that white stuff, but they're calling it a non-dangerous day. Wednesday, we'll see just spotty rain showers in the south, southeast, mid-Atlantic, all the way up to the Cape up there in Maine. So be weather aware, keep your eyes and ears open at all times because this storm has become very unpredictable. All right, let's jump over and change tunes here a little bit because we have to talk about our friends down under since we're on Radio X in Australia. Good morning to you. Well, you are experiencing Sydney, quite some wind and storms there on the coast north of Sydney, New South Wales, right there at Queensland in Brisbane. You are experiencing some high winds and storms, so take shelter if needed. Otherwise, it's going to be a pretty cool day. Let's look at the amount of precipitation. New South Wales is particularly going to be hit along the coastline, and that's about it. But the other parts, it's going to be a cool, frosty morning in most parts of the country, and the wind is going to be pushing. It's changed a little bit from the east, moving to the west, up over New South Wales and Queensland, and that's what sparked that little high down there, has sparked that storm down there. So it's going to be stormy for you during the day at New South Wales, but it's not going to be too bad after the storms die down. The rest of the country is relatively dry and windy, and temperatures, well, we can look at currently the temperatures. If you're in the middle of the country, it's around 42 degrees. You could have a little frost in some parts down around Melbourne. It's currently right at freezing just north of Melbourne. And Sydney, you're 62. Up in Queensland, you're anywhere from the 60s to the higher elevations into the 40s. Some elements this morning may have a little frost, especially in the Northern Territory. You might have some frost at the higher elevations, but it should be warming up. And it's currently on the west coast. And we'll say, Broome is 68. And you go inland in Western Australia, and it's in the 50s. Down in Perth, it is currently 51. So it's going to be a dry, windy, stormy day for you there on the coast of New South Wales and Queensland. I got a little article about that. All right, let's jump up here to the U.S. real quick and see what current temperatures are. Pay attention to this cold front here. It's going to actually make a move, and if it comes all the way to West Virginia, it's going to be a little bit of a chill for the South. All right, so currently in the nation's capital is 76, 70 in New York, 58 Boston. It is about 45 over in Burlington. Just totally lost it. 85 Atlanta, 83 Charlotte, 92 in Jacksonville and Tampa. Ooh, that's warm. I think they get the award for the hot spot of the country. Tampa and Jacksonville are the hottest spots in the country right now. Louisville, you're 74. Up in Chicago, you're nice, brisk 50. Go a little bit further north up into Minneapolis, you're getting at 53. Moving over west, Billings, Montana, 51. It's a chilly morning in Boise at 52. Portland, you're always cool at 57. Seattle, not far behind. Medford, 58. Sliding down the coast in San Francisco, it's relatively cool, 65. And all the way down in LA, it starts to heat up at 74. Texas, well, you're having another warm day, 78 in Dallas and 80 in Lubbock. All right, so let's jump over to the story. And this comes to us from 9 News Australia. Dozens of schools are closed and people are told to stay inside in the in the north southwest. New South, was it New South? I just totally lost my mind. Okay, at any rate, schools are closed. People should stay inside because of the severe weather and damaging winds coming in from the coastland on Australia. That's right. More than 30 schools we closed. Lots of flash flooding is expected, and it's to continue because of the the severe weather. And late tonight, they're issuing alert to stay indoors due to heavy and intense rains, damaging winds. And these are for areas are Port Macquarie, Doree, Kempsey, Gloucester, Forester, Seal Rocks, Barrington Tops, Wingham, and Yarrowich. There were 8 watch and flood act warnings across the Hunter, Mid-Coast, North Coast, and Cough Coast regions. All right, so they're talking about roads have already been flooded, and they're advising some people to stay indoors during the wind and storms along the coastland. It's going to be they're going to have some very high waves today, and lots of nasty weather, but stay alert for it. It's going to get better. That didn't sound right. All right. So these are 2 different maps we look at here. And the top one is NATOcast. It's just a different version or weather predictor. And the bottom is the NOAA National Weather Service. And for the intensity tornado level today, they're really saying that it's going to be, well, pretty much all of Kansas up into Arkansas over to the west, maybe extending as far inland over past Memphis. But it's the worst part is they're saying 15 to 20% chance just north of Texas. Pretty much all of Kansas is going to be under the tornado watch. The forecast window for today, interestingly enough, they're calling for a little bit of elevated winds on the Appalachia side coming down into the Tennessee Valley. And if you're in the center of the country, pretty much from Texas to Wisconsin, you're going to have a very windy day. The hail chance, and if you notice the hail, look on the Appalachia side, they're giving us a pretty good sign that today could be a nasty day. So we need to be weather aware. And if you're in the center of the country, that area has just been hammered since, last Friday? It's been a couple days. It's going to still be nasty today, but hang in there. It's going to get better. These storms are just going to intensify with the late afternoon sun, pulling all that moisture and energy off that warm Gulf air. And the middle of the country is pretty much going to stand a chance from Texas, like I said, all the way up to the Great Lakes, those severe storms, and it's going to extend eastward until sundown, where it'll start to dissipate and lose a little energy as it gets into the Tennessee Valley and the deep south, where it'll probably kick back up tomorrow. So weather aware, it's going to be a rough day. Let's take a look here. This comes to us from Weather Underground, and this is a different map showing the jet stream. We'll see here that that cool dip is coming from Canada. It's pretty much going to stop right around Texas and curve back up because the high pressure in the Gulf of America off the Atlantic coastline pushing that up. And that's also where the energy is coming from the storms today. So there's that. And I do have a better wind map. Here's the daily precipitation forecast for the United States. And if you look in the south, that little area of the Appalachia is where they're calling for most of North Georgia, North Alabama, right through the heart of Arkansas and up into the Midwest, Kansas, all the way back up to Montana. Can anticipate some heavy rains today. It's going to be relatively dry in the mid-Atlantic. Up in the Northeast, they still have a little front up there from Maine down to upstate New York is going to be rainy, but not as bad. Just light rains for today. Let's take a look and see. I want to look at this because this was updated May 15th. This is our, let me push the right button, the drought monitor. We see that currently Texas along the border and all the way over to California along the border is where the most severe droughts are, and down in southeast Florida. But we're anticipating that that's going to change with these storms. And we can even see, if you take a closer look at this map to the drought, that Hawaii is also having a bit of a drought problem. So, and Soul says it's thunderstorm season. Yes, ma'am, it is. And they are very nasty for us. So we're going to check out. We have a also risk of, oh, let me push the wrong button. Stop, go away. The National Weather Service, they've been experimenting with this map this season. I thought I had seen it before, but this is the National Heat Map and where the heat risk is. Obviously, the purple is, or magenta, is the most extreme, and the green is little to none. And yellow is, well, minor. So we see pretty much all of California is in the minor, meaning that the level of heat affects those individuals extremely sensitive when outdoors without cooling and adequate hydration. And we're also in yellow halfway through Texas up into Iowa, all the way across to the nation's capital. We're in that yellow section. But if you drop down into the more populated areas, you get into the orange, pretty much from Atlanta south into the west, all the way over to Dallas. The moderate means that this level of heat affects the most individuals sensitive to heat, especially those without effective cooling and are adequate. So orange is a little bit worse. And then if you look into Texas around Houston, Dallas, it gets into the red, which is the major. The level of effect is that anyone without effective cooling, adequate hydration will most likely experience some health systems in heat sensitive industries and infrastructure, meaning, in other words, they're going to use more power to run the grid. And if you look right there, it's extreme magenta, Texas, right at the border, right? We'll call it right at the tip coast in the Gulf of America. So if you're down in that area, this is a chance where it's going to be really hot, not much of an overnight relief. So make sure you're getting plenty of hydration. Let's take a look at the current warnings. And let's see. What do you think, Chris? We're going to have any warnings from Andy today? I haven't checked it in a couple days, so let's see. Make it full screen. Full screen, yes. Yeah, so there we go. All right, so Oklahoma, brand new warning has just come out for a severe thunderstorm. Yep, there you go. Test message from Maryland. It still works. Oklahoma's issued a special weather statement. Texas severe warning. Texas forecast won't make Brenda happy. No, she's going to be very hot. I hope she's got plenty of hydration and cooling. Flood warning in parts of Georgia, mainly along the coastline areas. Well, no, let's see. Yeah, Chatham, Effingham. Yeah, I believe that's up the coast. South Dakota, severe thunderstorm. Oklahoma, severe thunderstorm. Look at this. New York and Pennsylvania, frost advisory this morning, or I guess not this morning, overnight. And frost advisory for Pennsylvania. And we have I don't know if this one is still current, let's take a look here. And it goes from 2:14 till 10 p.m. A tornado watch for Nebraska, for Clay, Fillmore, Hamilton, Merrick, Nance, Polk, and York. Those areas are under a tornado watch. A wind advisory is in effect for New Mexico and Texas. And then there's also a tornado watch in Idaho and other parts of Nebraska. So if you're in the locations of Fremont, Montgomery, did I miss one? Millis, and Page, Potawatomi, Antelope, Boone, Butler, Cass, Colfax, Dodge, Douglas, Gage, Jefferson, Johnson. I shouldn't have even started reading these. Lancaster, Madison, Nema, Otoe, Pawnee, Pierce, Platte, Richardson, Saline, Sarpy, Saunders, Soward, Staunton, and Washington. Those areas are in a tornado watch until 10 p.m. tonight if you're in Nebraska or Idaho. And let's see here. Let's see. Tornado watches in Arizona and Oklahoma. Well, those are pretty much areas that have been under some serious weather. And I thought I saw something new pop up here. And I guess it was just a severe thunderstorm warning. Let's take a look at the radar and see what it's doing right now. All right, so this is the current weather map. This is courtesy of Jima. I have no idea what Ginger's barking at, so maybe Andy is here. All right, looks like, I hate this chair. It looks like the most severe storms Now let's zoom in a little bit here. The most severe right now are around Rapid City, Iowa, back over to the east. What is this? Bismarck is where that the most active areas are. Coming down to the east, the severe thunderstorm warning in Sioux Falls. This is Montana, so this is the most active storm up in the, what would that be, the northwest in Montana. So those areas are experiencing the most right now. There's a small storm up here covering pretty much all of New Hampshire. Well, no, just a tip of New Hampshire into Maine, and not a whole lot of energy associated with that. Come back down here. There's a small cell. Well, it's just to the south of me and to the east of me. So there's a small cell there and in northeast Georgia. Zoom along in Oklahoma City. We have some severe weather statements and severe thunderstorms in Tulsa. We have that. My dog doesn't like fires. Our extensive county listings. Yeah, that's true. I don't see any things more severe than thunderstorm warnings. I don't see anything more severe than that. Let's take a look before we run out of time. Here we know we're doing pretty good on time today. Hopefully not talking too fast. Let's look at the electrical activity. Now, I don't know the joules per kilogram. I can just tell you that according to lightningmaps.org, that parts of South Dakota are getting hammered, and it's going to be moving to the east towards St. Paul. But right now, currently, it is being hammered in Watertown and Sioux Falls. You're getting extreme lightning right now. So seek shelter. Little pocket in Nebraska, north of Grant Island. Is it Grant or Grand? Grand Island. To the east, we see over here, just north of St. Louis, there's a small cell located there, west of Bloomington. And we jump down here, and let's just jump in here to Oklahoma. I was calling this Kansas. I'm sorry, Oklahoma. Right now, you're experiencing in the northeast section, Cherokee Nation, just south of Tulsa. Really, let's just call it the Tulsa metropolitan region. That whole area, even deep south of that, has got an immense storm right now, moving over towards Cherokee Nation. And if you're anywhere in that area, seek shelter. That's a pretty severe storm. Zoom out a little bit. There's a small cell just to the south of Dallas-Fort Worth. It's not as strong as the other one to the north, but it states the problem is it could get this warm energy that's come in, and it could give us some problems. All right. Let's jump from real time and let's go to power outages and see currently what we have. So currently there are the states that have the most power outages are Missouri with 27,832, and this is at poweroutages.us. Michigan, 11,689. California, 10,864. Kentucky, God love you. You're still recovering from that storm, 9,078. Tennessee, well, currently 8,072. I'm going to say it's mostly to West Tennessee. Well, all right. Well, no, it's pretty close down there in Chattanooga. So, all right, let's jump up here and we'll look and see in the sections of Kentucky if those were the Pulaski, Jackson, Laurel, back over here in Butler. These were the counties that were really hammered over the weekend. They're still getting their power back on. We wish them well in Kentucky. California, most of yours isn't due to storms, it's due to the grid. You see there's not one specific county more than the other, except for maybe Lake County is the most where it's a drain on the system. And if you look up here, Michigan, well, it looks like most of it is in Calhoun with 63,623. That is currently the number of people without power in the United States, according to poweroutages.us. Oh, wrong button. All right. This wind map, well, it's been updated. Kansas and Kentucky are not being on a power outage list is incredible. I agree. Kentucky was on it, but it wasn't as bad as I anticipated it. I anticipated that swath through the center of Kentucky was going to be much worse. So this is the current wind map as of May 19th at 11:28 a.m. We're going to look at another one here in a minute, but they updated it at 2:28. We see all that energy coming up from the Gulf of America. Look at all the wind coming up from the Gulf of America, pretty much to just south of Chicago, where it turns hard left. And then over here, you're going to see where it really starts churning up along the Montana area up there. Denver, all of your cool air is coming from the Canadians. And over on the coast in the Pacific, all of your, we'll call it cooler air, is being pulled in from the Pacific Northwest. And then up in the Northeast, you're getting your winds out of Canada towards the Atlantic. It's relatively, in Columbus, relatively wind-free. And down in Washington, D.C., you're just experiencing some mild wind gusts. Chris says the Columbus map, people heard us talking about it. Well, yeah, they hadn't updated, like 2 weeks, and I was about ready to give up on them, so I don't know. They must have heard us and got on the ball. Yeah, hopefully they subscribed, they hit the like, the thumbs up button, and all that good stuff to make sure that they got all the current stuff and updated with where I'm going to be and when I'm going to be there. All right. So this comes to us from Air Now. And this basically just tells us how good or bad our breathing air is. And it gives you a rating according to color. And today we see that it's mostly mild or moderate. And we see that it's pretty much all of Texas going up into Oklahoma City and Kansas, and then in Mississippi. Along the Gulf, you can see there, actually, we'll just call all the Atlantic Gulf is probably before the day is going to be over. It's got some moderate breathing problems. And I'm sure down in those warmer areas in the southwest and southeast parts of Florida are probably due to the extreme temperatures, as well as with Tampa. We go over to the coast and we can see that the major city with the worst breathing problem today would be Los Angeles, but pretty much along the coastline, it's kind of a moderate to unhealthy day. So it's not that bad. We've seen much worse. In fact, we've seen times where they tell you to stay indoors. So let's take a look at the allergy map. It's got much better for me, I can tell you that. So maybe I will buy into this National Weather the Weather Channel. Good Lord. Maybe I will buy into their map, because we see most of the pollen is now out of East Tennessee. It's moved up to our friends up into the north, into the Northeast. Welcome to spring along the New York, Maryland, Pennsylvania border, all the way to the coast up there, almost all the way up to Canada and Vermont, and pretty much all of the Burlington areas in red. And over to the east, the coastline is orange. Up in the Midwest, up over there from Four Corners over to the south and over to the east, just north of you, it's gotten a little bit redder with the tree pollen. The trees are pollinating, and it's a better day in East Tennessee. I can tell you that. I'm not sneezing my head off as much as I was. All right, let's take a look. The grass pollen, though, well, yeah, no thanks. In the south, we can see that pretty much it's code orange. Parts of the coastline from pretty much the Outer Banks down through, we'll call that Jacksonville, across to the Gulf of America, code red for grass pollen, code orange for much of the Mid-Atlantic. Deep south, we're code yellow here in the Tennessee Valley. And Texas, you're pretty much code red for grass pollen. And all the way back over the Four Corners, you're red to orange, depending on your locale. So grass pollen's getting to be a thing. We'll look at the breathing index map. This is where they tell you who will have the most difficult time breathing today. I really don't know that I buy into some of this, but as a paramedic, I can tell you that the warmer temperatures in the beginning of spring is where we did run the most calls. So we see here that basically the only really hot spot is around the Four Corners region out in the west and part of Texas. So that's the only really areas where they're saying severe breathing difficulty is. I'm kind of surprised it's not more towards Florida. Let's look at the aches and pains map. And once again, I don't know that I buy into this. I don't know the science behind it, but I'm just not convinced. They're showing pretty much the mid swath of the country as that front's coming down and in is where the most painful days are, part where the most aches and pains are. And then on the back side of it, where that cool air is trying to push down into there as well. So I don't know. I don't know that I buy this map, but that it comes to us from our friends at the Weather Channel. You can take a look. Now, this is IQ Air. They take everything into consideration, and this is from fires, which we'll talk about here in a moment, to pollen, to dust, and they mix it with AI generated with the wind flow, and it shows you where the most unhealthy air is. We look right now, and from Nigeria all the way over to Kuwait, Syria, up to Algeria, all those areas are extremely unhealthy. And you get back over into Kazakhstan, over into Pakistan and Mongolia, it's looking very unhealthy in parts of China as well. Down in Australia, not too bad for you guys. Tasmania, you got that little fire going down there, but it's not too bad of a breathing quality day. If you're inland over towards the west coast, perhaps a little bit. Let's put this on the other view. I'll let you take a look at it. This is the AI generated. This isn't our big, beautiful, perfect round globe map. This is the wind flow with the different pollens and smoke and fire. And we can see most of these dust and smoke coming out of into the States is coming from Mexico, old Mexico City. And we see over here in the continent of Africa, coming from Asia, where all that bad air and unhealthy is. We go down under and we see, like I said, along the Gold Coast, besides for the severe storms through the early parts of the day and a little bit of flooding, it's not too bad. But up in the northwest coast, a little bit of smog and pollution up there this morning for you. No, that's not what I wanted. I wanted this button. Okay, space weather prediction. I don't know if you saw it over the weekend. There was a space storm that come up on us. And I'm going to use the words from the government source that listed it as unexpected, in quotes. So the Aurora came further down into the U.S. than it normally does. Didn't make it to the deep south. It almost did, but it come down into the lower 48, pretty much around the mid-Atlantic and back across to the Midwest. But it wasn't. It was supposedly a great show, but it came up all of a sudden. We see the next 24 hours. Well, unfortunately, there's no chance that the Aurora will be coming down into the lower 48, even though even though they're saying that there is a minor sunstorm, but they're not showing any. They usually show the area that it's affected, but they're not showing anywhere that it's going to be affected. And the nation's first space weather simulation exercise occurred May 8th through the 9th of 2024. The solar wind speed is 492 kilometers per second. Interesting. Usually they will show you what parts of the country may experience some radio outage, but they're not showing anywhere. So Chris says we should let YouTubers know that we greatly appreciate all the dust that we're receiving from Mexico and welcome all undocumented dust now and in the future. Well, Chris, we welcome all subscribers. I don't know if I'm on down south of the border. I could be. We want everybody to come over to YouTube, para or normal, 3 words, guys with a Z. I need you to hit that thumbs up button, help spread this around. Tell your friends, share it with your friends that there's some wacky guy in the South that's talking about weather and news and sometimes sports and things he doesn't know anything about half the time. He just babbles, but people like to watch him anyhow. They can check it out. Subscribe. We really need your subscriptions. I think we're right around 750. If we could get 250 more, that would be just great, because our viewing hours are looking good. We're getting pretty much anywhere from 20 plus viewers to the Sportcat Daily Gazette. And the pair are normal guys. It varies anywhere from as little as 15 as high as 200. And then Monday Night Horrors, which is tonight with my girls, Cheyenne and Amanda, they usually get pretty good ratings and reviews. So come over and watch the girls do their thing. That's tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time. They get really good ratings and reviews. So we enjoy putting their show on. So yes, everybody come over, hit that thumbs up button, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to know when some of these other shows are on, because the Paranormal Guys is Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. This week we're going to have an author and a singer. And then the Monday Night Horrors is every other Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So hit that bell right there. Hit that notification bell and let yourself be known when a storm is coming. That was timing. I didn't do that on purpose. All right, so this comes to us from the USA Today. And I'm not so much interested in the fires per se as I am the smoke. And we see most of that is coming down from Mexico. We'll call it Guatemala so that we don't offend our Mexican audience, but most of that smoke and dust is coming from down south of the U.S. and coming up and causing the problem in Texas and over to the southwest. Now we will take a look at how are we doing on time? 2:48. We're not doing too bad. I'm gonna have to work on getting my timing up. I gotta work on talking too. We see that the only real active fire on the East Coast is still over here in the Black Swamp. 950 acres is still currently burning, and they've been doing a good job with working on that. All the little teeny tiny red dots you see, those are reported or satellite seen fires. And it could be something as small as a brush fire or even a house fire, and they just don't have boots on the ground to confirm it. We know there've been a no burn zone, pretty much, we'll just call it most of the Southwest, but there are some fires burning in the Coyote Valley, and where is this one here? Bryce. And so these fires are burning. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at my other map and see if these were started as controlled burns or not, but that is a red flag area, that whole section down there from the pretty much center of Arizona back across the border to Albuquerque down to Lubbock into, well, deep into Mexico and parts of Texas. No fires, burn ban in Sacramento to the north and to the east. I'm assuming it's in the valley, so it's a burn ban there. Most of the big fires for the U.S. currently are up towards Minnesota. Those are the largest fires right now in the U.S. But all these little red dots you see are just reported fires. All right. Here is Chris and I. It's our favorite one. This is the big, blue, beautiful globe. What this is this comes to us from earth.us, and it is AI, and it is what the wind, and if you look at it, how it shows how the wind is going. Green is stronger winds, and it is generated with AI on the big, beautiful, perfect globe, showing you in full color, which is, I guess, blue, green, and white, the beauty of the current wind conditions. If we look over here in the Atlantic real quick, I checked earlier, nothing in the Atlantic, nothing really alarming in the Gulf or over here off the coast of Africa has triggered anything for NOAA. And in the Pacific, there is nothing that they saw of concern as well. We'll jump down to our friends down under, not down that far down under, and we'll see. And it's as reported along the Gold Coast. It's going to be windy, stormy with high waves coming in from Queensland all the way to the Northern Territories, up along across the tropics in the north here. A little bit of wind, but not too bad. It looks like that high is still kind of dominating right off of the coast of Queensland. So, and I don't see any cyclonic events currently on the big, beautiful, perfect globe. And if you're listening on Radio X in Australia, or you're listening on Yerg's Radio, Rainbow Radio, Right Talk Radio, and you're wondering, what is this nut job talking about? This is the big, beautiful, perfect globe where you can see exactly what the wind is. You need a plasma TV about 50 inches, some nice, relaxing music put on, and just sit back and watch this. And the interesting thing about this is you can just zoom into areas you're interested in. Like if you just want to see the U.S., you can zoom in and see it. You know, you've got total control. And if you don't even think that the Earth is round, which most people do, you can even switch it to, let's see here, flat, where you can see what it would be like on flat Earth. And if you want to see what the ocean is doing, you can jump over. It makes it a little bit different colors, but you can look at the waves. You can look at the current currents if you're a fisherman. And you can go back and look at the winds on the ocean. So you can even go, if you're interested, in looking at the particulates, which that other map is better for this. And then wind surface from space dust. Who knew? But you can check it out. It's got different modes, and you can look at the big, beautiful globe, and you can make it any way you like it. But we prefer it big, beautiful, and round. Am I allowed to say that on YouTube? We just got a few minutes left of my shenanigans. Real quick, this was updated as of May 15th. In the United States, there are currently 1,024. That was the most recent information we have. And measles cases confirmed. Most of those people are from the age group of 20 or younger. And vaccination unknown or unvaccinated is 96%. And currently 13% of those have required hospitalization, with the greatest anywhere from the 19 to 5 years of age group. And unfortunately, there have been 3 confirmed deaths from measles in the United States. And hopefully, with the season getting warmer, we're getting closer to that being over. Look here at volcanoes, and I'm going to do a deep dive on this because you're not seeing it in many places. In fact, it's really not showing on this map. They're supposed to be off of the Oregon coast, which is right up in here, a very large volcano about to blow, and it could cause, this is according to some of the YouTube stars, up to 10,000 earthquakes. So I'm going to research that a little bit and find out, because if it is in the ocean, even if it's 300 miles out from the coast of Oregon, and it erupts, it can cause anything from tsunami to earthquakes, but it's supposed to be a volcano in between 2 of the tectonic plates. I just find it interesting how it's not even listed on the USGS's map. So is that YouTubers trying to get clickbait about something that's going to happen or not? So I'm going to check that out. Let's refresh this. This is earthquakes. I like it in the list form. We will look at it in globe form here in just a minute. But the most recent one was 4 hours, 15 minutes ago in central Afghanistan. We'll skip around to places we're more interested in, which would be the U.S. and down under. And I don't see any within the past 24 hours affecting the United States. So that is good news for us. There, of course, been central Peru 2 days ago had the large one. All right, let's look here. The latest, we see really only the ones off of the coastline there was the most recent one, and that was over the weekend, and it was a 2.7. I think I told y'all that we had an earthquake here in East Tennessee. It was like a 2 point something, and it was enough to wake me up. And Chris says, I try to be optimistic, but 10,000 earthquakes just sounds bad. Yeah, because if you think about it, if it is, let's say it's off the coast of Oregon, way out here, 300 miles is still enough to generate possibly a tsunami if it's large enough. Then you're going to have the volcanic effect in the ocean. You're going to have all that ash that's going to get into the jet stream, and that's going to travel. So you're going to have the ash problem. I guess you'll have the ash problem with an underwater volcano. That's a good question. I'll have to check out that. But I would think you would have an ash problem. And then if it is between the 2 tectonic plates, goodness sake, that's going to cause some problems. And I can't find it on any of the maps. So I don't know if it's just clickbait. from these other shows trying to get you to come watch their shows or not, but I haven't seen it on any of the official maps. The only thing I've seen, there was 2 spots that I found. One was on a sports radio. I don't even know if it was ESPN. They did a small article on it somewhere out towards the west. And then I saw a little banner across the bottom of the TV. And of course, over the weekend, there was a TikToker that was trending because his, I'm going to use quote, friend who's a scientist told him of the major earthquakes and volcanic activity. I can't confirm it. I'm still researching it. So who the heck knows? But always, always, always be weather aware. All right. So we're going to jump into the event list as we get just a few minutes left. And we see under biological origin, animal attack, Gulf breeze, that's in Florida. A man was bitten by a bear while trying to protect his dog. All right. In India, a lion dies from bird flu at the Kanpur Zoo. That's horrible. Pakistan, hepatitis C outbreak. United States is still dealing with the effects of the measles outbreak. And we see here that Haiti is still having their power problems. In France, flights were canceled at Paris-only airport after traffic control systems broke down. That seems to be a major thing. I don't know if I want to fly right now. And we look at social incidents where they're saying local security problems are. Well, we see that Mozambique, Nigeria, Yemen, Sudan, India, Congo, all those are pretty violent areas. Public safety incidents, 3 people were fatally shot at a Georgia bar. I hadn't seen that. Germany, a man had after a suspected stabbing attack. I've told everybody to be prepared for the sharp, pointy attacks. We know about the escapees, and I saw something about this demonstration I was going to talk about, but we ran out of time. Trying to find something serious here real quick because we're running short of time. We've just got a few minutes left. I want to tell everybody that I appreciate them at Yerg's Radio, Rainbow Radio, Radio Australia. Thank you very much for your support and listening. And up next, we have a show coming on Yerg's Radio, which will also come over Rainbow Radio, Radio X. Important to say, Radio Australia. David Beckmeyer, his show. He's got a great show that he does. We'll go out of here looking at the cyber attacks. We can see that the attacks are red, infections are yellow, white is spam. It looks like most of them are still coming from Asia, attacking the United States. And the infections, if you notice that, watch it go up and down the coast on the Atlantic coast. So pay attention to this. This comes to us from Bitdefender. I hope everybody has a great day. Yeah, correct. The ESPN doing volcano articles and the Weather Channel doing breathing maps. Yeah, stay your own lane. Yeah, I agree. But it was a small sports station in Oregon that covered it. I don't know if it's true or not. I'm going to do some more homework on that. But if you are listening to me in the Midwest, just start researching and be aware of your environment. You might want to start thinking about a bug out plan. I don't usually like to mention things like that, but there's going to be 10,000 earthquakes. You're going to want to get the hell out of Dodge. Everybody have a great day. Thank you for allowing me on Radio X, Rainbow Radio, Yerg's Radio, Right Talk Radio for me being able to tickle your ears with my Southern shenanigans. And of course, we appreciate overnight the replay on Pine Island FM in Florida. Everybody have a great day. I will see you soon. Until then, Sportcat is out of here. I'm going to go out of here with the song. Well, I'm not going to dance, but go out here with a nice little song. Everybody have a great day. I will see you soon.